सुनने वालों को सिराज ज़ैदी का बहुत बहुत आदाब, नमस्कार and good afternoon. You're very welcome to the program. You're tuned into Siraj Zaidi until 4 o'clock. Apna radio broadcasting from Dundrum Town Centre at 93.9 Dublin South FM. This is a weekly show that goes on air worldwide now through our YouTube channels and through our various digital inventions, should I call them. But this is something which is very interesting that I'm trying to actually get to the Indian listeners, because what is happening in India is that Godi media is controlling the voices of the real voices of the real information and keeping the people ignorant. But that's not the case anymore. Technology has beaten them badly. Anyway, so like every week, we start the program with the news from Charmaine, and Charmaine would be the person who would be talking about what's going on in the world of news in India. So Charmaine, take it away.
Good afternoon. Here is the weekly news update with Charmaine Colvin on Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. Latest GDP figures for India indicate India's economy has slumped to a 7-quarter low of 5.4%, significantly lower than the Reserve Bank of India's forecast of 7%. Although robust compared to developed nations, the figure signals a slowdown. Economists attribute this to several factors. Consumer demand has weakened, with FMCG companies reporting a drop in sales, while salary bills at publicly traded firms, a proxy for urban wages, shrank last quarter. Reduced government spending is cited as another factor, although Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman believes that the decline is not systemic and said India will probably remain the fastest growing major economy despite challenges like stagnant wages affecting domestic consumption, slowing global demand and climate disruptions in agriculture. Other experts believe that the central bank's focus on curbing inflation has led to excessively restricted interest rates, potentially stifling growth. India's inflation rate surged to 6.2% in October, mainly driven by food prices. Vegetable prices, for example, rose to more than 40% in that month, likely influencing other everyday costs or core inflation. Others attribute the decline to India's economy, operating on a two-speed trajectory, driven by diverging performances in its old economy and new economy. While some critics believe the problem lies with the central bank, propping up the falling rupee by selling dollars, which is bad for the economy and exports. The government, however, remains positive. Chief Economic Advisor V. Anantha Nageswaran said the latest GDP figures should not be overinterpreted, as the banks are strong, forex reserves are robust, finance is stable and extreme poverty has declined. Analysts believe fraud charges made against the Adani Group in the US last month will not affect the government's overall targets for India's clean energy goals. Gautam Adani has vowed to invest $100 billion in India's energy transition. Its green energy arm is the country's largest renewable energy company, producing nearly 11 gigawatts of clean energy through a diverse portfolio of wind and solar projects. Adani has a target to scale that to 50 gigawatts by 2030, which will make up nearly 10% of the country's own installed capacity. 30 gigawatts will be produced at 𝐀𝐩𝐧𝐚 in the western Indian state of Gujarat. It is the world's biggest clean energy plant, supposedly 5 times the size of Paris, and is the centrepiece in Adani's renewable crown. US prosecutors, however, allege that the Adani Group won contracts to supply power to state distribution companies in exchange for bribes to Indian officials, which has been vigorously denied. Police in India's capital, Delhi, has searched around 40 schools this week after receiving anonymous bomb threats. The schools received emails threatening that bombs would be detonated unless $30,000 was paid to the sender, according to news agency ANI. No bombs have been found yet, and police have not confirmed whether the threats are fake. Hoax bomb threats have increased significantly in India this year, with airlines and airports receiving around 1,000 threats, causing long delays and flight diversions. Experts are unsure as to what has caused this dramatic surge compared with previous years. In May, thousands of students were evacuated from nearly 100 schools in and around Delhi after fake bomb threats were emailed to them. Delhi Chief Minister Atishi has accused the federal government, led by Modi's BJP, of failing to ensure the safety of residents. An Indian beauty service startup has found itself in the eye of a storm for a publicity campaign aimed at highlighting workplace stress. An internal email from the company called Yes Madam went viral on social media, in which employees were informed that the company had decided to part ways with those who had reported feeling stressed at work. Earlier this week, however, the company clarified that it hadn't fired anyone and that the social media posts were part of a planned effort to highlight the serious issue of workplace stress. The campaign received mixed reactions online, with some praising it for drawing attention to an important topic, while others criticised the company for misleading people and toying with their emotions. It was also noted that the campaign had succeeded in propelling an almost unheard-of brand into the limelight in a matter of hours. And finally, the race to make the Cricket World Test Championship final is hotting up. With 10 tests remaining in the 2023-2025 cycle, 3 teams are still in with a realistic chance of making it to Lord's and playing for the right to be crowned World Test champions. Holders Australia are still firmly in the mix, as are India, beaten finalists in the first 2 editions of the competition, and South Africa. Defeat in the second test has made India's task more difficult, and they will need wins in the final 3 tests to guarantee qualification. So that's all from me. You have been listening to the News Roundup on Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
And what a great news it was, Charmaine. Thank you so much indeed for bringing us here in this hemisphere where we actually don't get any news from India at all. By the way, the Indian news is particularly are available quite a lot on the cyberspace if you bother to search it, but you don't have time these days. And hence our program, Apna Radio, will bring you to your ears from the horse's mouth, as we call it. And our team is working very hard in order to evaluate and give you the correct picture of Indian economy, Indian situation, and various other elements of this, the nation called India. It's a great nation. It's a wonderful country. It's a wonderful people. Overall, it's 1.5 billion people. But diversity, the huge diverse nation with different spread over the continent of Indian subcontinent with 24 states and union territories and all that. Majority of the people are pretty much straightforward, hardworking, honest people, exploited by the politicians and indeed controlled and cajoled by the clever business people and indeed, sometimes the marketeers who are tricking people literally, as it was the case in recently about this product, makeup product and all that. So India is a dishonest country in many ways because people are dishonest. झूठ बोलते हैं लोग, झूठे होते हैं. What I've just said, that people are liars. People are literally, including our government, in fact. So I've no shame to saying that. And they run the election on the false accusation and all that. So in many ways, it's a complex country. It's a complex nation because it also have a lot of good things as well as bad things, like any other nation. Talking about any other nation, I would give you a quick glance over Syria, what is happening. I don't know in India what sort of news you're getting about it, censored news and all that. But Syria, Bashar al-Assad's, dictatorship has been toppled by another cruel dictator and a terrorist organization, which has been listed and kept at bay for a while. But then since the map of the Middle East literally always is a supple map, it's just always changing with the help of the bigger power and bigger nations who are playing games there in the Middle East. And they found Middle East as the football ground and kicking around, toppling the dictators, toppling the rulers and changing the regime, and sometime by force, sometime by clever politics and things like that. So Bashar al-Assad has been flown away from Syria. He just gave up after the several years of not doing anything at all, in fact. And at his doorstep, the war has been going on. And he was enjoying his position because at the back of his, power, there were two very big powers supporting him vis-a-vis Hezbollah, fighting for him and protecting. And I'll tell you why they were protecting it. Because Damascus, particularly the Damascus, Syria is a historical country with a lot of history of Christians and a lot of churches, a lot of Christian communities and all that. But at the same time, it is also have a very significant Shia history because Sham, as it used to be in those days, when the prisoners of war, because it was a seat of power at the time, 1,400 years ago, at the time of Battle of Karbala, the prisoner of war has been brought to Sham, to the palace of Yazid, which is in ruin at the moment. But they were the women and children who've been buried, who's been actually kept there for a while. And then when they released the sister of Imam Hussein, Bibi Zainab Salamullah alayh, she returned back to Damascus, and she lived there and passed away and died there. So her holy shrine is very much there. And her daughter Sakina, who was passed away in the prison of Yazid during the time of imprisonment when they were, in prison, prisoner of war. So it's a very significant holy shrine for Shias all over the world, traveling from India, Pakistan, Middle East, visitation. And there was an economy of that because there was a hotel industry. There was obviously endless food stalls, restaurants, all that. People had to stay somewhere. People had to eat. And so therefore, a big tourist site it was. And that has been as I said, the third largest pilgrimage after Iran, Iraq. Syria has been considered to one of the biggest pilgrimage site. Now, the regime of Assad's father, the senior Assad, has been very polite and very considerate to this aspect of the Shia pilgrimage, and he's been, very courteous and honourable guy to look after them and allowed that to flourish. Assad was more or less the same, although they were not Shias, they were Alawis. Now, Alawis are a very strange lot, in fact, if you think about it. Think about them, who they are. They call themselves Alawis. Some Alawis call themselves Ali as the god, and which is not correct at all. And Shias don't believe in that. But Alawis are a strange lot. They're not really religious people in many ways, but they have these strange beliefs and all the rest of it. And I'll talk about that beliefs today. What is and why those beliefs are still very much alive and clashes among people. But that was the background of that. Anyway, he's been toppled very quickly because his backbone army of Hezbollah has been broken. In Lebanon, a blatant war with Israel has broken. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah has been killed. Many other key people of Hezbollah has been. So there's a dearth, and the morale has been down for Hezbollah for a long time. But recently it has gone really down after losing vis-a-vis the leader of Hassan Nasrallah. Now, Naim Qasim is the new man, but he's not as prolific, as dynamic as Hassan Nasrallah was. And therefore, you would have a vacuum. And that's the vacuum they took advantage. The rebel, so-called, the leader of this guy. He was like bin Laden. He was a young man with the vengeance among, shaking hands with Israel and doing, good business with Saudis and all the rest of it. And so therefore, the hallmarks of those terrorism is very much there now. It remains to be seen that how much they will bring so-called peace in that country. He's promising to do what he call it a good business with neighbors, will have all the rest of it, but it's not going to happen, because if he pull punches with Shias in Iraq and Iran, neighboring countries, two countries, he will be in trouble and he'll be toppled and he'll be removed from the power, and a new power will come, hopefully, inshallah, as we call it. But that's what it is. I mean, right now it's in the hands of terrorist organization, And it's a very big issue. Dabble into it if you want to read about it. Who is current ruler and power in the Syrian power, and of course the incoming regime of Donald Trump is clapping their hands with full joy and happiness, because that's what they wanted. They wanted their own puppet man to be sitting there so they can actually continue their enmity with Iran and Iraq as well, the two bigger power they lost years ago. And so therefore their picture of the globe is not looking great, should I say. It's looking grim, to say the least, because the drum beating of Third World War is very much getting louder and louder. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into detail. If you really are interested in that, you may also just log on to any cyberspace and Press TV, particularly the Press TV, where I used to work years and years ago. And then you'll get a lot of information on what's going on in that part of the world. We return back to our own country, India, the GDP, and Sharad Awasthi has given a lovely clip and lovely recording about the economy of India, which is in tatter at the moment, to say the least. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular analysis by no other than our own Sharad Awasthi from London.
They're good to be here again. The world's fastest growing big economy, that is India, is it losing steam? So between July and September of this year, India's economy slumped to a 7-quarter low of 5.4%, and that's below the Reserve Bank of India's forecast of 7%. 5.4% may not be considered bad if you compare with other developed nations which are reeling at 2% or around that number. But then India is a growing economy, and therefore it is a sign of concern. I am trying to make the concepts of Indian economy as simple as possible. I have put together a few of the factors which are raising red flags, and what are the reasons to worry and what are the reasons not to worry. Generally, it is said that the consumer demand has weakened, which means that people are not buying. One of the indicators that I have looked into is that Amazon India, which is the market for the cheapest and the greatest goods as far as our geography is concerned, Amazon India is a loss-making company, which means that whatever it is selling, overall Amazon is making losses. Therefore, people have stopped buying, or they are buying very, very cheap products where it is not profitable for Amazon to sell through it. Uber India is a loss-making company. That means that whatsoever number of people were traveling in Uber continues to be stagnant. So people are not traveling within the city, neither are they buying enough. These are just two basic examples. The other contributing factor is India's goods exports have long struggled, and their share is only 2%. Fast moving goods, the goods that we use daily, that is also slowing down. People are consuming less goods, and that is attributed to the salary available for spending. Now, there are two parts to it. One is the urban salary and the other is the rural income. The urban salary is also not growing, and much of it is attributed to the rising cost of real estate in India. It's a boom. Builders have made lots of buildings. They are all expensive, and it is only catering to only a particular band of wages. Now, those band is already full. People already have houses in that price range. But those who do not have houses, they are of the low and a very low income group. And they are struggling due to high cost of rents or high cost of real estate. Therefore, the wages available to spend on consumer goods is under pressure, and that is where the consumption has come down. This is not a one-day process, but it is a fundamental that has taken its own time to decline over a period of time. So it consists of our habits in India, our consumption habits, our spending habits, and how the income distribution has happened to various expenses of rents or EMIs or buying luxury items. For many reasons, India's inflation is sitting around 6 and 6.2%, and this is mostly because of high cost of vegetables. It could be because of bad weather, or the cost of transportation due to high cost of fuel is a reason for high prices of vegetables and food items. So if you compare that inflation is 6.2% in October, or say roughly 6% through the year, and 7 quarters, so that means 2 years of low growth below 6%, in a way it is not a growth economy anymore, and that is why people have their worries. If you go to the bank, the interest rates for businesses are higher, and that is actually dampening the investments back into the business, which in turn is leading to unemployment. There is no growth in the business. Business continues to be where they are. So it's a flat line for them in order to survive. But because there is reduced investments, the growth in business is slow. Now RBI was supposed to lower the interest rate, but then considering lowering the interest rate will only increase the inflation, which is already high, the RBI has kept the interest rate as low. That means the investments into the business will continue to be low, which is not going to help employment. Also, it is not going to help the rise in wages, and hence people will not be compelled to spend much desirable items. Ideally, the Reserve Bank of India wants to keep the inflation at 4%. So it is 2% at least higher than the target. So if you see, there is a toxic mix of inflation and therefore low growth in the country, which is hampering the Indian economy. Now there is a political element to it also. While the news and media shows a very shining India, where the global brands, the luxury brands of cars and clothes are filling the Indian market, but those are only pockets of it. So there is two Indias that we are talking about. One is where the foreign investment is directly hitting the Indian economy, and that is the creation of global capability centers by many companies in India, roughly 1600 companies in India, and they are paying salaries and wages equivalent to their counterparts in Europe and Americas. While the other India is largely the 90% of India, which is still struggling with the old age economy. Their incomes and their wages are stagnant, in fact getting hampered by the high inflation. So all that shines with the global brands is not true, or it is partially true, but certainly not when it comes to equality of economic growth of India. The political part, there are two political parts to it. One, that the dollar to rupee value has always been a matter of pride and status for Indians, and in order to stabilize that, India is selling lots of foreign exchange in the market. Now what that has done is, it has made Indian goods expensive in the global market, and therefore the Indian exports are suffering. Also there is a pressure of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and because of that India has taken policies to prevent dumping. That means cheaper goods from China and other countries should not come and flood Indian market. Therefore, Indian government has levied a high tariff of up to 17% on goods that are coming into India, but then they were being processed for exports. So what has happened in turn is that the higher cost of imports is hampering the exports of India, and which in turn is leading to lower wages and higher unemployment. So the politics is also not helping. But then the finance ministry suggests that this slowdown is only temporary because of the model code of conduct prior to the general election. Not much spending was done by the government, and therefore that has an effect in the previous quarter. So according to the ministry, India will recover its growth in the quarter of October-December 2024 and subsequently in 2025. As we all know, economics is an art, and it can be interpreted in either way. So while people are talking about the slowdown as temporary, the others are calling India's economy fundamentally flawed, and they are not seeing any signs of recovery when it comes to economies like Vietnam and China. Hence, there is skepticism on either side of the country. While many are enjoying the luxury items because they are directly affected by the investments, foreign direct investments, and the others are struggling because of floods or failed crops or climate change or high price of fuel for transportation. Overall, it's a mixed signal. We should not be reacting to the lower growth rate, but then also there are serious concerns about the high inflation that still persists, including the strength of Indian rupee in the international market. Usually economics is not high on the agenda as far as the Indian news is concerned, except for when there is high inflation. Therefore, this headline too will subside over a period of time, but then we will keep a tab on it and get back to you whenever there are consequential changes that we observe. Thank you for your patient listening. Please continue with your feedback and we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.
Dublin South FM. You wouldn't buy a car without knowing its history. So why would you buy a story without knowing who's telling it? Come here and I tell you. It's not always easy to verify what you see, read or hear. But now there's help. Visit www.bemediasmart.ie. Stop, think, check. Be Media Smart. Brought to you by Media Literacy Ireland, supported by RTE. 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Indeed. Welcome back to the program. This is 93.9 Dublin South FM. And I'm your host today. Siraj Zaidi is here until 4 o'clock. And I hope you'll be staying with me until 4 o'clock because now comes the fun time. That was a serious, boring part of economy. And who cares about the economy as long as you can have a 2-square meal and enjoy whatever you drink and just have a good time and listen songs. So there you go. Song listening time is here. And today I'm in the mood to celebrate the birthday of the most handsome, the most gorgeous young man of our industry, evergreen, Mr. Dharmendra. Dharmendra was just Dharmendra. Second name, nobody knows what his second name was. Everybody knows him by name of Dharmendra. And heroines used to be, the leading lady used to be very, dying for his beauties and beauty look and all the rest of it. And what is going to be, let's play a first song and then I'll talk about his background and his biography and all the rest of it. So enjoy this particular track, Aaj Mausam Bada Beimaan Hai.
घटा डर रही है, काली काली घटा डर रही है, ठंडी आहें हवा भर रही है, क्या गुमां हो रहे हैं, हर कली हम पे शक कर रही है, फूलों का दिल भी कुछ बदगुमान है। ऐ मेरे यार ऐ हुस्न वाले, ऐ मेरे यार ऐ हुस्न वाले, दिल किया मैंने तेरे हवाले, तेरी मर्जी पे अब बात ठहरी, जीने दे चाहे तू मार डाले, तेरे हाथों में अब मेरी जान है। आज मौसम हो, आज मौसम बड़ा बेईमान है, बड़ा बेईमान है। आज मौसम आने वाला कोई तूफान है, कोई तूफान है। आज मौसम, आज मौसम।
Chairman Vayo, that is amazing song of film Loafer. And I'll stay with Mohammed Rafi and Awasthi Mohammed Rafi Sahab ki. And an evergreen, arrogant classic song it was. Here's another one of Dharminder and Mumtaz. That's also, Balamaya, was the film Loafer. And as I said, I'll stay with Dharmender's song, and it's going to be fantastic. All the songs that I'm going to play will be Dharmender's songs today. Why? Because I think Dharmender has got his own wonderful charm for, and I'm going to give you the flavor of some of the songs that he played over the years and all that. And then I'll talk about it, in fact, his own particular background, his life, and which kind of a stage he is now. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, first of all, these songs. I'll be back soon.
ओ मसीहा देख हंस के अपने इस बीमार को, हम मिलेंगे तोड़ कर दुनिया की हर दीवार को। ओ मसीहा देख हंस के अपने इस बीमार को, हम मिलेंगे तोड़ कर दुनिया की हर दीवार को। है मेरे रूठे सनम कहना तू मेरा मान ले, जाने मन जाने जिगर जाने तमन्ना जान ले। याद कर याद कर याद कर याद कर कैसे कहाँ दिल रह गया था टूट कर। याद कर एक दिन मैं ले गया था तेरा सब कुछ लूट कर। याद कर मुझसे वापस आज तू अपने सभी अरमान ले। जाने मन जाने जिगर जाने तमन्ना जान ले। जाने मन जाने जिगर जाने तमन्ना जान ले।
लाई रब के नजर लाई छाई दिल पे छाई
आई आई मैं तो आई जन्नत छुपा के लाई आई मैं तो आई
लाई लाई तू तो लाई रब के नजर लाई छाई दिल पे छाई ब्यूटी क्वीन ब्यूटी क्वीन
ब्यूटी
हसीना जिसको मिली कभी ना उसका जीना क्या जीना बिना तेरे दुनिया को देखाया तुझसा न कोई पाया
आई आई मैं तो आई जन्नत छुपा के लाई आई मैं तो आई
लाई लाई तू तो लाई रब के नजर लाई छाई दिल पे छाई ब्यूटी क्वीन ब्यूटी क्वीन
ब्यूटी
गालों के ये अंगारे आंखों के ये शरारे कब बनेंगे हमारे
अंग मेरे निराले जैसे साचे में ढाले कर दूं तेरे हवाले तू जो चाहे
या
तू ऐसा आया हर दिन ठुकराया आई आई मैं तो आई जन्नत छुपा के लाई आई मैं तो आई
लाई लाई तू तो लाई रब के नजर लाई छाई दिल पे छाई ब्यूटी क्वीन ब्यूटी क्वीन
ब्यूटी
आगे से देखो पीछे से देखो ऊपर से देखो देखो नीचे से देखो एक से हम दोनों बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों अरे आगे से देखो पीछे से देखो ऊपर से देखो देखो नीचे से देखो एक से हम दोनों बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों अरे आगे से देखो पीछे से देखो अरे ऊपर से देखो देखो नीचे से देखो एक से हम दोनों बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों एक से हम दोनों बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों हम बरसों के बिछड़े भाई, हम बरसों के बाद मिले हैं। लगता है जैसे एक डाली पे, लगता है जैसे एक डाली पे एक जैसे दो फूल खिले हैं। आने वालों ओ जाने वालों, आने वालों जाने वालों ठहरो लोगों। आगे से देखो पीछे से देखो, ऊपर से देखो देखो नीचे से देखो, एक से हम दोनों, बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों। जो था मेरा वो है तेरा, सब पे तुझको हक हासिल है। जो था मेरा मेरा वो है तेरा, सब पे तुझको हक हासिल है। इसमें गोरी और गंवारी एक हसीना भी तो शामिल है। पर वो हसीना प्यार करेगी, पर वो हसीना प्यार करेगी कैसे मुझको। आगे से देखो पीछे से देखो, ऊपर से देखो देखो नीचे से देखो, एक से हम दोनों, बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों। अरे आगे से देखो, अरे पीछे से देखो, ऊपर से देखो देखो नीचे से देखो, एक से हम दोनों, बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों, एक से हम दोनों, बिल्कुल एक से हम दोनों।
Chairman, that's another interesting song of Dharmender's film that he played the double role in that himself, and therefore, though Dharmender is like two people, same people, this is an interesting way in some time in Hindi cinema we play and we show that that two people are the same actor playing the double role, as we call it. Anyway, talking about Dharmender ji is because everybody call him Dharam ji in the industry, and he is the most respected individuals now, born in the 8th of December, in fact, a couple of days ago, and therefore we are still playing his birthday celebration. When it was 35, in fact, 1935, before the partition of India, and 1947 it was, and he was born in 1935 in Punjab, and now celebrating his 86th birthday. So yes, he's getting on in life, but enjoying his life, and is still working amazingly in his 80s, well into 80s. He's a few years older than Mr. Bachchan himself. Mr. Bachchan is now 82, 83 in fact, so 3-4 years older than him. But in contemporary way, they are both in the same kind of age league. His full name was Dharmendra Kewal Krishna Deol. Yes, they are Deol, and therefore Bobby Deol, therefore Sunny Deol. They're all two sons that he has from his previous marriage. Yes, he was married twice, and lucky are those who do get married twice. In fact, because usually people do get on in life and they just have one wife, but really are rarely lucky those who can have a second wife as well. And what a second wife he picked, in fact, no other than Hema Malini ji as well. Now, Hema ji and myself, we met in Oslo in Norway a good few years ago when Hema ji came with her two daughters, Ahana Deol and Isha Deol. And they have a Bharatnatyam traveling troupe that they travel. Hema Malini's brother is also a production producer of that show. And what a fantastic show he was. So he has two sons from his previous marriage, and he has two daughters from his second marriage to Hema Malini ji. obviously that marriage was very, very controversial because he was a Punjabi Jat and 𝐬𝐤𝐺 was a staunch South Indian Hindu lady. And so therefore they couldn't marry somehow properly. So as the legend says that they converted to Islam and the marriage was conducted as nikah marriage. They both have had a nikah and then they sort of have consummated their marriage and live happily ever after. Both obviously, there was a lot of commotion within the two families and there was a lot of unhappiness, but who cares? But both have been top of their careers, working as an actor and actresses, 𝐬𝐤𝐺 also and 𝐷𝐴𝐺 also. So it's a kind of a life goes on kind of thing. Those people who are up and running and successful. Recently, I was watching the very same point. In fact, love conquers all that's the theme that runs in most of our Hindi films. And I was watching one of the Crorepati's, episode recently, Who Wants to Be the Millionaire? 𝐂𝐿 𝐵𝐴𝐺𝐴 Crorepati by Mr. Bachchan. And there was a young man from Gujarat who recently got married to another tribe or another culture or another, love marriage, obviously it was, and 3 years since they've been married. The parents, in fact, not his parents, also his parents and the parents of the girl, they're not talking, and his parents have stopped talking to him as well. And so therefore he requested to Mr. Bachchan about this, that, sir, I am on your show and it took me a while to be on your show and all the rest of it. I want to ask you a favor, that you can talk to my parents now on the television and tell them that what the problem is and the trouble I'm in. So obviously Mr. Bachchan got emotional and he brought up his own story. He said, look, who am I? My name is not Bachchan. My father's name was not Bachchan. He was Harvansh Rai Srivastava. He was a caste Hindu. But he fell in love with a Punjabi lady. Now, Punjabis are strange people. Here's the Dharmender was also Punjabi. And 𝐻𝐤𝐺 Bachchan, who became Bachchan, in fact, 𝐻𝐤𝐺 was also Punjabi lady, his Amitabh's mother. And he said, look, the byproduct of that, I'm sitting in front of you, the most successful man on earth in India, and all the rest of it is the history. So he said, he folded his hand and he requested. And he said, look, guys, 21st century, wake up, smell the beans of coffee, this Jat-Pat, this, differences between Shia, Sunni, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Punjabi. What is all about? Get on with life, get a life, enjoy it. If you like someone, just live with it. Whatever the differences is their differences they grew up with. And you put up or shut up with that. And that's the progressive way of living and looking into the life. And Mr. Bachchan was so gracious to fulfill his request to talk about it. So therefore, Hindustan is full of this kind of, because there's so many bhat ke janwar rehte hain wahan. In other words, the different types of animals and humans live together. Yes, somebody has visited recently India and said, look, happily people and animal live happily on the street in India. So India is a contradiction. It's really a country of paradox. And paradox, being a paradox, is this only country in the world where you can piss on the street, but you cannot kiss on the street. And this kind of paradox are very much common in India, whereby the other thing is that you don't talk to the strangers on the streets. And indeed, it is very rare that people do talk to opposite sex on the street, but they're happy to marry strangers in an arranged marriage way and all that. So a lot of things are paradox in India. India as a society can only be observed from the outside India. When you look abroad, and the countries like Ireland, like UK, like US, Canada, where you live as a diaspora community, as an Indian living abroad, then you see the pitfall of India. Pitfalls of India in a sense that people are still inward looking, they are still bogged down into their own caste, creed, and religion. And of course, religion plays a huge part. Now, political games, political, parties are playing that game. But that's never been, issue, because after 1947, when the country got independence from the British Empire, it has got a constitution. And the constitution, led by B.R. Ambedkar, Bhimrao Ambedkar, has written this, that all creeds, all caste, all tribes are living together in peace and harmony for the sake of the success of the nation. So the nation is a great nation. People of India are great. The idea of India is great. Yes, it has paradox. Yes, it has a culture, and that makes it more interesting, because in our film industry, that's where I belong to. I work in the films, I work in the radio, I work in television, whereby you could see that those differences are being shunned completely and not talked about it. People are free to choose their partners, free to live the way they want to live and enjoy their life. Because at the end of the day, what Mr. Bachchan said, quite rightly in a sense, hey folks, we have only a few years in this world, 86. Dharmendra ji is in 86. Bachchan Sahab is also 80 plus. Kitna jiyeंगे इंसान? 90, 99, 100. 100 से ज़्यादा तो कोई नहीं जी सकता. 100. This is a very small human life. And in that life, if you have lived 50% of your life or 60% of your life heavily ever after, or 30% or whatever, and in your youth you meet someone you like, provided that likeness should be like a lightness. That what is phrase I've just used. Likeness should be like lightness. And if it hits you, it hits you. If it's not, then you will be regretting that later on. The divorce, the splitting up, all of that is very painful, and people do go through that kind of rigmarole if they do make mistakes in picking and choosing the partner. Enough is enough. Times are up, and I like to play another songs of Mr. Dharmendra. Happy birthday, Dharamji. One day I will meet you, because I'm coming again to Mumbai soon, and I shall be talking to somebody who just recently filmed you in Gadar 2. So anyway, that's me, and I hope you like the show. I hope, thank you very much, Charmaine, for lovely news. Thank you very much, Sharad from London. And thank you very much, our own technician. The sound technician was Lee. And that's it, folks. See you next week.